In this video, we are going to trace the route the Israelites took after crossing the Red Sea here and their arrival to Mount Sinai. We will look at the astounding amount of evidence that can be seen at each site and at Mount Sinai itself. You will be deeply touched, and your faith will grow immensely as you witness all the miracles and evidence that can be seen for the truthfulness of the Bible and these miraculous events that took place. After crossing the Red Sea, the Bible says that they traveled to Mount Sinai. So they crossed the Red Sea here. They come now, they're in Saudi Arabia. They're in what is called Midian. Saudi Arabia beach in the land of Midian here, the Israelites are now led supernaturally by God through the wilderness to Mount Sinai. Along the way, they are led by the pillar of cloud by day and protected and warmed by the pillar of fire by night. We will trace the believed route of the Israelites using the evidence of the places they would have camped, and by taking into account the possible travel routes leading through this wilderness. So now their journey begins to Mount Sinai from the beach here. In Exodus 15:22 it says, "Then Moses led Israel from the Red Sea, and they went out into the wilderness of Shur. And they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. When they came to Marah, they could not drink the waters of Marah because they were bitter. For that reason it was named Marah. So the people grumbled at Moses, saying, 'What are we to drink?' Then he cried out to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree, and he threw it in the waters, and the waters became sweet. There he made for them a statute and regulation, and there he tested them. And he said, 'If you will listen carefully to the voice of the Lord your God, and do what is right in his sight, and listen to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of these diseases on you, which I put on the Egyptians, for I, the Lord, am your healer.'" By analyzing the geography of the land and by taking into account ancient maps from over 100 years ago and modern-day geology maps from Saudi Arabia, we believe Marah was located in this flat area between the Red Sea crossing site and Elim. Here you can see this area and how it would fit the geography of the place where the Israelites could have camped. Now it says in Exodus 15, it says, "Then they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 date palms, and they camped there beside the waters." And you can see in this video, this place has been found. This very place that it talks about has been found, and it supports the biblical text. To this day, there are many palm trees and exactly 12 wells here. This would have provided water and met all the needs of the Israelites. Here you can see this area with the palm trees and some of the wells. The Saudi locals in the area point out that this is Elim and has been known by this name as long as they can remember. We then find in Numbers 33:10 that the Israelites then journeyed from Elim and camped by the Red Sea. Now we have strong and convincing evidence of where Elim is, so taking into consideration the geography of the land, the most obvious place would have been south of Elim, a bit at the modern-day location of Magna Oasis by the Red Sea. And you can see that this is a large area with plenty of water that would fit the biblical requirements for this place. There is also a well here called by the Saudis as the well of Moses. From the Israelites' encampment by the Red Sea that we believe is modern-day Magna Oasis, Numbers 33:11-14 tells us that they traveled to the wilderness of Sin from this place. Now the name Wilderness of Sin does not refer to something sinful, but is just a name. And it says, "And they journeyed from the Red Sea and camped in the wilderness of Sin." Now it appears that they backtracked to Elim and then from there went to the wilderness of Sin. Exodus 16:1 provides the details. It says, "Then they set out from Elim," so they went to Elim from Magna Oasis, and then they head to the wilderness of Sin. And it says, "And all the congregation of the sons of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after their departure from the land of Egypt. But the whole congregation of the sons of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. The sons of Israel said to them, 'If only we had died by the Lord's hand in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the pots of meat, when we ate bread until we were full. For you have brought us out into this wilderness to kill this entire assembly with hunger.'" Now at the encampment at the wilderness of Sin, several major events would take place. Because the Israelites grumbled against God, He supernaturally gave the Israelites manna, of which they would eat until the day they entered the promised land some 40+ years later. He also provided quail, of which they became sick on, and then He instituted the Sabbath day. After this, it says in Exodus 17, "Then all the congregation of the sons of Israel journeyed by stages from the wilderness of Sin, according to the command of the Lord, and camped at Rephidim. And there was no water for the people to drink. Therefore the people quarreled with Moses and said, 'Give us water that we may drink.' And here is where Moses struck the rock, and water gushed out and came out from this rock." Now this rock that Moses struck and God split in two is believed to have been found and is a perfect match with the biblical account. It is massive in size and sits upon a small hill. It's also located in a large valley where the Israelites could have camped and can be seen from a long distance away. It shows water grooves in it where massive amounts of water ran down from it. And you can see this rock and the water channels and grooves that were made when the water gushed out from it. Now God confirms this in Isaiah 28:21. It says, "They did not thirst when He led them through the deserts. He made the water flow out of the rock for them. He split the rock and the water gushed out." And this is exactly what we see here at this large, massive rock at Rephidim. And then it says in Psalm 78, it says, "He split the rocks in the wilderness and gave them abundant drink like the ocean depths. He brought forth streams also from the rock and caused waters to run down like rivers." Now this rock from which the water flowed here at Rephidim is also referred to as the rock of Horeb because it is close by to Mount Sinai, also known as Mount Horeb. Also, while at Rephidim, the Amalekites came and fought against the Israelites. Exodus 17:8 says that, "Then Amalek came and fought against Israel at Rephidim." The Amalekites were descendants of Esau and were a people who lived south of the Dead Sea region. God supernaturally gave the Israelites victory as Moses held up his arms. When his arms got tired from being outstretched, then Aaron and Hur helped him hold up his arms. And by doing so, the Israelites were victorious over the Amalekites. Also, right by this massive rock at Rephidim, you can see what appears to be an altar that Moses erected after defeating the Amalekites and named it Jehovah Nissi, or more properly said as Yahweh Nissi, which means in Hebrew, "The Lord is our banner." This altar is located right beside the rock Moses struck where the water gushed out for the Israelites to drink. Now there are also some other amazing discoveries in this area that are fascinating to see and give more evidence that this area was traversed by the Israelites. Ryan Marah, who recently visited this area and produced an excellent documentary called Finding the Mountain of Moses, the real Mount Sinai in Saudi Arabia, says some of the following information. He says the name of Rephidim means place of rest. Hebrew inscriptions that have been found in this area have been interpreted to say place of rest, the definition of Rephidim. Closer to the mountain, inscriptions have been found that Dr. Miles Jones, a scholar of ancient Hebrew, believes are talking about the battle with the Amalekites. He says one of the inscriptions refers to the death of an Amalekite. Nearby, there are two inscriptions that Dr. Jones believes are marking where a Hebrew mother and daughter died. The Bible says that God told the Israelites that they would possess the land wherever the soles of their feet would touch. Near the split rock and near the mountain, there are many inscriptions with an image of a foot and a sandal. Next to the image, there is a Proto-Hebrew writing that means the sole of the foot. There have also been found inscriptions that were translated and found to refer to Yahweh, the Hebrew name for God. Now, we did a video about Gilgal that talks about the appearance of campsites in Israel that are shaped like a foot. There are a total of 7 of these campsites that have been found in Israel. One of the clearest is at Gilgal, of which you can see in this video. Now, all this evidence at Rephidim is quite convincing. After their time in Rephidim, it says in Exodus 19, in the 3rd month after the sons of Israel had gone out of the land of Egypt, on that very day they came into the wilderness of Sinai. When they set out from Rephidim, they came to the wilderness of Sinai and camped in the wilderness, and there Israel camped in front of the mountain. So to this point, the Israelites had been gone from Egypt for about 8 or so weeks. They probably arrived at the Red Sea about a week or less from the time they left Egypt. Then they went 3 days into the wilderness and camped at Marah. From Marah, they went to Elim, where they camped for several weeks. We then find in Numbers 33:10 that the Israelites then journeyed from Elim and camped by the Red Sea. Now it appears that they backtracked to Elim and then from there went to the wilderness of Sin. From Elim, they traveled to the wilderness of Sin. Exodus 16:1 says, Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the 2nd month after their departure from the land of Egypt. So when they arrived at the wilderness of Sin, they had been gone from Egypt for about 6 weeks. From the wilderness of Sin, they traveled to Rephidim, where they camped for a week or so. Then they arrived at Mount Sinai in the 3rd month after leaving Egypt. The beginning of the 3rd month would have given them 2 months' time to reach Mount Sinai. They would then stay at Mount Sinai for about a year. Here they would receive the law, build the tabernacle, and be taught to obey God's laws and principles.